Good afternoon, the world. Welcome to the Meltdown. Hope you're having a great day. We're going to talk about what's going on in the world, why you need to take the steps to protect yourself. My biggest concern as I look at where the markets are today is the realization that as a global economy, we're willing to take it on faith that the value of currency means something. Now, today I got some of the new $100 bills. And it would seem like we've taken extra precautions, we've taken on an additional expense to protect the counterfeiting of $100 bills. That's not the real problem. The real problem is trying to figure out how to get the old currency out of the market, and at what time does the U.S. government choose to announce that it will no longer take script of a certain time frame. Now, I certainly watched MASH when I was growing up. And as a teenager in the 70s, I remember MASH talking about red notes and blue notes. And certainly any of us that are of age and we talk to our relatives that served over in Korea, we know about the change of script. Well, that's coming again. And I know a company that, 15 years ago, talked at length about the coming change of currency and what it would mean to the meltdown of the economy. Well, that didn't happen that way. And of course, the gloom and doomers of the world are always wrong. They've never really hit the mark properly. My concern is that as we move towards the next decade, we're going to see more changes in the currency and more attempts to protect the currency from being counterfeited. The reality is that we're never going to be assured of that until such time that the U.S. government announces it will no longer take currency from a certain time frame as legal tender. Well, that's unprecedented here in the United States. Of course, all over the world, we've seen the devaluation of different currencies over time, and they become collectible in nature. That's one of the things about our industry, the rare coin and precious metals market, the currency market, whether it's obsolete notes that are no longer something that you can use as legal tender, to notes that are gold certificates. They're still legal tender. The fact that they've got a value far and above their face value, that's the important point that I want to make in talking about it today. Now, I can tell you back in 1990 through 1992, central banks were major liquidators of precious metals. I remember a transaction out of the Bank of England that was purported to be as much as 400 tons of gold. It took a long time for the gold to be consumed into the market. Today, when gold is dumped into the marketplace, there are lots of ready buyers for it. Now, most buyers talk about paying a reasonable percentage over the spot price of gold. Well, that's because there's a refining cost and a marketing cost, and dealers want to make a profit no matter how small the transaction. We all know that in the Middle East, they want 24 karat gold, where here in the United States, you see a lot more 10 and 14 karat gold. The difference is that pure gold is desired in the Middle East and throughout Southeast Asia. Here in the United States, we'll deal with the 10 karat and the 14 karat that runs between 0.417 purity and 0.585 purity. We don't like 24 karat gold as jewelry. In the form of investment, lots of dealers get on the bandwagon and talk about transactions in coins. Now, we'll make a market anytime for bullion bars if that's what you want to deal in. The market is a little tighter when you get in. The downside is that it's also less tight on the other side of the trade. So on a day where you see volatility, you may pay 102 to 103% of spot price, so 2 or 3 points over the market, to own a bar. Whether that's a 1 ounce, a 5 ounce, a kilo bar, doesn't matter. You're going to pay a premium over spot. When you sell it, if you sell in a down market, you could find the bid as low as 92 to 95% depending on the amount of volatility. Dealers still want to work on a couple of percentage points, so don't begrudge us of making a profit. The other side of the equation is paying a little bit more to get into the coin market. Now, whether you're buying Krugerrands or 1-ounce gold maple leafs, pandas, Philharmonics, maybe the U.S. Eagle or the Buffalo, you'll pay somewhere between 5 and 6% over the spot price because as a dealer, depending on the size of the transaction, I'm going to pay between 3.5% and 4.5% over spot. Again, you can't begrudge us of making a profit. When you come out of the coins in a down market, if there are dealers that are looking for more material, you could see a bid that will range from 101 to 102.5%. So you're going to get paid a premium over spot if you're dealing with somebody who wants to do business with you properly. You'll get a premium where the bar you get into for a few points less, the bid may be 5 or 7 points less. So truly you get a better spread buying the coins. Now, there's no absolutes out there. This is still an unregulated industry. It's part of the reason that very few brokerage firms deal in physical gold. They want to deal in ETFs, the electronically traded funds, GLD. There's several of them, but GLD is the largest gold. In silver, it's SLV. And these two ETFs control as much, if not more, gold and silver than anybody combined. And so my contention is that when JP Morgan, Scotia Makata, Deutsche Bank, the 7 sub-custodians decide that they want to short the market, they have the ability to liquidate gold out of GLD. They can do the same thing in the silver market with SLV, and they can dump the product. The problem is, when they find the bottom and they've moved the market dramatically, the metal may not be there to consume again and put it back into the ETF. See, that's the misconception. Brokers sell the shares to you, the unsuspecting consumer, and you think you're buying into a position that's in gold. You're trading dollars for paper and shares. And let's face it, yes, you can request the stock certificate. You can have your shares delivered. The reality is that when you're making these trades, you're not buying the commodity. You're buying a share value. And ultimately, it's the sub-custodians that have access to liquidating the commodity. They can move the market. And so understand that when I bring the commodities market to the public, I'm talking about ultimate diversification. It doesn't matter to me whether you own your home, your cars, you've got an art collection, a gun collection, a car collection. You add precious metals and rare coins to provide you an additional hedge, the extra protection that you need from other areas of your portfolio. Now, one of the things that I was noticing before I went on air is that looking at the Nikkei, the Japanese stock market, it was down about 0.5 percentage point last night. The Dow is currently approaching 15,700. It's up about 0.75 percentage point. The big mover of the day is the US dollar and the value of what is perceived out there. You know, it's funny, we shut down the government for 16 days. What we didn't see happen out of Fitch, Standard & Poor's, or Moody's was a further downgrade of our debt. Folks, the world is into quantitative easing. And it's so much into it that if you look at what's going on overseas, the Soviet Union, the Russians, dumped gold for the first time in over a year. And they did it simply because the rest of the world doesn't really care about the gold. Well, that's not true either. There are central banks that are buying gold as fast as they can see it hit the market. Purportedly, a couple of weeks ago, a large transaction occurred out in Iraq. Well, whether it did or not, I don't have that touch. What I'm going to tell you is that if the world is going to accept quantitative easing and we're going to go to unlimited quantitative easing, unlimited debt, no debt ceiling, those are all on the table. Don't forget, after a 16-day shutdown, all we did was crank the government back up, assume a great deal of debt for the process of doing it, and we assured ourselves another showdown in 90 days. Now the midterm elections are coming up, and we'll see if we make a big enough change and everyone yells enough. But the truth of the matter is that the wealthy are getting wealthier at the expense of the middle class, and the lower class is getting, quote, closer to broke. Christmas is coming. We're talking about less than 60 days now. And ultimately, credit card debt will increase dramatically. Those are concerns that I have in the economy. And I'm looking at what's going on overseas. Yes, we surged the debt by $328 billion. Yes, we've increased our debt to $17 trillion if you accept the government's number of its own debt. Personally, I would go higher than that. And when you talk about the explosion of debt, quantitative easing adds to the equation, and everyone wants to see some tapering so that we slow down the presses. The reality is, to do that increases interest rates. That means the housing market starts to slow down. People don't have the same liquidity to do the same things. Those are the concerns. So when I look at where gold is today, and we're trading just under $13.50, I would tell you it's still a roaring buy. Why did the Russians dump? Why not? They need to take care of their economy, and they're going to do it in the form of whatever rubles or dollars or yuan or yen or whatever else they want to trade in. The reality is that gold and silver are universal metals. Folks, you can get on an airplane with a couple of ounces of gold in your pocket and no one's going to know it. It's non-ferrous. It's not going to set off anything. Yes, if you put on 15 or 20 ounces on your body, it may get picked up in the scanner, but it's the portability that I'm concerned with and I discuss. I don't want to send you to dealers that bait and switch. Those are the guys to avoid. Anybody who tells you 1% over cost is begging for somebody big to come in so that they can turn your transaction into something else. I love owning cheap gold. I believe that the market is ripe for owning gold. I really love silver. Still under $23. We're trading right at the moment, depending on what website you look at, we're trading in the $22.65 range. Now, that's the spot market. That's if you want to trade in 5,000 ounces of paper, because you're not getting anything for the value. All you're going to get is the certificate. If you want to own physical metal and you want physical silver American Eagles, depending on the quantity, you may pay anywhere from $27.75 to $29. Silver maple leafs. Personally, I don't like the coins. I don't like them because back in 1990, when the dollar, the Canadian dollar, dropped below the price of the silver, someone went in to the Royal Bank of Canada and tried to tender them. They would not accept them as legal tender. So any country that won't recognize the legal tender value of its own coinage, I've got a problem with. When I look at precious metals transactions, I can tell you that here in Houston, Texas, the city of Houston is requiring disclosure of, quote, almost everything. You sell it, they want your fingerprint, they want your driver's license, the license plate number. They are reaching for as much information as they can possibly procure from you. It's for that reason that I like rare coins. And when I talk about rare coins, I want to build a portfolio. When you say, Brett, this is what I've got to work with, I want to build a portfolio that covers a third, a third, and a third. A third of it obviously is going to be in the lowest premium, most least expensive product I can recommend to you. The second third gets into semi-numismatic coins. The final third, that's the rarity. And that's where I really love the market, because the rarest of coins, you may deal with a liquidity issue, as in a, right now I want to sell it, but the reality is it doesn't care about the volatility of the market. I don't care if silver goes up $1 or down $1. Any more than I care about what gold does. And that's the point in owning extreme rare material. Now, I can tell you that the wealthiest, the most prudent investors are spending hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. And there's a lot of rare coins that you can procure and spend anywhere from $100 to $10,000, and you get a lot of rarity. It's a major way to go about acquiring precious metals and getting into this arena. Now, it's also about liquidity. So I never want anyone to put all of their eggs in one basket. If you're talking to a financial planner, a money manager, they will lay out a program that will cover every dime that you've got available to spend. And whether you're putting it into annuities, whether you're involved in the bond market, the stock market, they really tend to get away from collectibles. And collectibles happen to be one of the strongest arenas to be able to get into. So it's for that reason that I'm very, very bullish. I look at the market and I realize that here in the United States, the U.S. is a net seller of gold and silver and platinum. In other words, we make a market, we make the coins, they sell the coins to the public, and unfortunately, most of you are going to go either put it in a safety deposit box, in a bank, or a savings and loan if you can still find any of them. Well, the problem is that legal tender comes under scrutiny. You can't put cash in your safety deposit box. It's illegal to do it. So when I talk about building sets of coins, or I want a client to own some of the key dates, the reality of owning them is that they're always liquid. It's a question of how you set up the portfolio and what the needs are for the cash. I had a gentleman call me, it's probably been a couple of weeks now, but a couple of weeks ago he called and started asking questions about the liquidity over a very short period of time. Coins, rarer coins, modern coins, are graded by a number of grading companies. I prefer NGC and PCGS graded coins, but for me, it's always about looking at the coin, not the holder. It's not that way in all areas of the U.S. coin market. And frankly, the liquidity in foreign coins, for me, isn't something I want to dabble in. If you want to own gold in the form of 20 francs, or you want to own British sovereigns, a Krugerrand, a Maple Leaf, I'm talking about older world coins that are numismatic. That's not my arena. I'm not going to get into it. I don't want to learn. It's taken me 25 years to get down this part of the market. I'm not going into that part of the market. But it's important to listen to the news. It's important to be on a number of different stations so that you're procuring information from enough people. The reality is liquidity is king. And I listen to the car auctions. I watch guys buy cars from 10,000 to 300,000 or 400,000. And ultimately, somebody who's spending that kind of money isn't worried about making the light bill or taking care of any ancillary overhead. So for me, it's a question of maintaining liquidity in recognizable material. Part of the reason I like NGC and PCGS graded material is that it trades on a computer network that the dealers hook into. If your material is rare enough, we'll talk about sending coins to auctions. I've got a great deal of clients that are always looking for material. And whether it's Texas commemorative half dollars, whether it's $20 gold pieces that were made from 1907 to 1932, the St. Gaudens gold piece, there's different denominations, different qualities, different grades. I know people who build 8-piece gold sets, and they build 12-piece gold sets. I know guys that go even deeper and they get into the really rare bust gold. And so it really is a question of what you've got to work with, what your goals and objectives are, and what you like. Yesterday I was talking at length about the Red Book. Now it's in its 67th edition. The 2014 book has been out for a while. And you can go through the book and you can learn about what are the characteristics of any particular coin in a certain grade. Graders come in a lot of different shapes and sizes and experience. And so there are grading teams at NGC and PCGS. And there are 3 graders before it gets to the finalizer, the 4th set of eyes. And ultimately, you've got a whole lot of checks and balances to make sure that a specific coin maintains a value. It's very important. The value of grade points is more important. I sent off some New Orleans Mint silver dollars about a week ago. And I suspect that hopefully they'll be out of the service maybe as early as Monday or Tuesday. The value of a grade point is the difference between a coin that could be worth $500 in a AU58, that's about uncirculated. In Mint State 60 to Mint State 63, the value of the coin goes from 1,000 to a high of 15,000, and that's the value of a grade point. Mint State 62s are going to be coins that have a value between $5,000 and $7,000, depending on the eye appeal of any specific coin. But in Mint State 63, that grade point turns a double or a triple. And folks, those are serious upgrades. It's the value of looking at coins and realizing that a grader, when he's grading, gets about 6 seconds to make a determination of a coin's value. It's fast and it happens quickly. And so my concern over older coins versus newer coins. The U.S. Mint learned how to strike material. And so there are a lot of you that will go after the U.S. market and you will buy into the finest known Mint State 70. That's a perfect grade. So whether it's a proof coin, which is polished and struck with extra pressure, or the business strike coin, which is one stamped out after the other. The coins are near perfect. They're supposed to grade 70. They're supposed to be perfect. The grading companies limit what they put out there. So from my perspective, I'm much more adamant about owning rarer coins, particularly in the second third where the semi-numismatic material meets up with the rarest coins in the bottom third. In the top third, I'm just interested in different types of coins, in different dates, with different qualities, so that I maintain the status of being a collector. And you'll ask, Brett, why do collectors matter? And I really don't want to collect this stuff. It matters because gold was confiscated in May of 1933. And at the time, the economy was in deep trouble. We'd already been into the Great Depression. And President Roosevelt decided he was going to limit gold sales, gold ownership. You had to be a collector to maintain the material you owned. If you owned foreign gold, the government took delivery of it. They confiscated it. They issued IOUs. What they didn't do from 1933 until the beginning of 1986 was allow it to be legal to own, quote, and the U.S. Mint produced it. Now, there were other forms that were legalized, and a good acquaintance, gentleman by the name of Jim Blanchard, buzzed over Richard Nixon's inauguration in 1972 with a tail on a single-engine plane that said legalize gold. Knew Mr. Blanchard for a while. Great guy, great stories. The reality is that there's a lot of history that goes behind this. And for all of the gloom and doomers that have been out there talking about the sky is falling, the economy's going to be damned, they were wrong for almost 20 years. That's a generation. They were wrong that long. The reality is the government destroyed this economy. And you and I have no say in what our Congress people do. Yes, you have an opinion. Yes, you can voice it. Yes, you get to vote. But the reality is that these men and women make decisions for us, and they do what they choose to do. Yes, they get voted out, but they're also on the floor to listen to the information as it's debated. They're able to make transactions that are no longer considered insider trading, and they take advantage of the opportunity. So if they go into office and they're not wealthy, they normally come out wealthy because we've allowed them to use the information the way we've chosen to let them use it. So for me, what do I like? It isn't about what I like. I love lots of different types of coins, and I'm probably one of the most eclectic collectors that there are. The reality is that when you talk about rare coins, what's rare to one man may not be rare to another. And I've watched auctions over the years, and I've seen coins that have traded for a few $1,000s and other coins that trade for $50,000 to $75,000 or more. Predictions about the market run from dealer to dealer. The reality is that most people who get into the market like big, beautiful coins. I'm one of them. I love Morgan and Peace silver dollars. I love trade dollars. I love seated dollars. We're talking about coins that date into the 1830s and 1840s. I love a Gobrecht dollar. That's 1836 and it's rarest. I love 1794 when the first Silver dollar was created, the flowing hair dollar. 1795 up through the first part of the 1800s. These are coins that you can acquire and spend as little as a couple of $1,000s on. And ultimately, my point in bringing it up is it's a question of getting a hold of a red book, deciding what you like, deciding on the quality of the coins. Now, the red book is absolutely out of date when it goes to press. Things change, the markets change, the value of the precious metal that the coins may have been struck in, that changes. Lots of factors are out there. But when you get right down to it, it's a question of what do you want to own? Are you someone who's worried about barter? Because let's face it, we've seen central banks shut down. We've seen countries declare bank holidays. And we take it for granted here in the United States, although we don't take it for granted in Kingwood, that the energy is going to come on when you flip the switch. The reality is that a bank run starts and it spreads very quickly. As soon as there is a concern over any individual bank or a system, the system can shut down. And folks, it spreads very quickly. I remember IndyMac back in, I want to say 2009 or 2010, a California-based bank that ended up with lines 3 and 4 blocks long, people trying to get in. I saw the chaos last fall when Cyprus shut down its banking system. It took 2 weeks to bring it back up. And people were crushed at the door trying to get in when that door cranked open to get a hold of 300 euros to be able to buy some bread and make transactions occur. Your credit card was not sought after. The banking system was shut down. Merchants didn't want it. They didn't care about your credit card. They wanted hard currency. The reality of currency goes all the way back to the original conversation I started at the beginning of this podcast. Reality is governments produce currency nonstop. It's all the time. Here in the United States, we've got 2 separate facilities to produce the currency. And this funny money, the different color and the blue strip down the center, let's face it, folks, we're going to find counterfeiting all over the place. It's the old $100 bill that you don't see very many of. The government's trying to get off the market. That's what we hear. That's what we see. You can buy it as it's been defaced. It's been shredded. And ultimately, it becomes a collectible. My concern over the long haul is that gold and silver are a biblical commodity. People have talked about it for thousands of years, and it'll be around for thousands more as long as we don't blow ourselves up. That's the concern. And so owning some gold, owning some silver, that just makes sense. Owning it in different forms, different fashions, different qualities, that makes you a collector. And a collector is paramount. Now, I've got some of you that listen in, and as you've listened to my show over the years, you've found out that there's a lot of repetition in what I say. That's because the stories that affect the economy, they change and they develop during the day. The reality is that to be in a smart portfolio requires staying the course, maintaining a stable position, understanding what areas of the market may be undervalued, what areas are overvalued, and watching what other companies are going to market and sell. It is about what you like, but it's also dependent on what you've got to work with. I hate to talk to people about coins that trade for 10 or 20,000 if their entire investment's going to be 10 or 20,000. I love coins that are trading between $3,000 and $10,000. Doesn't matter to me whether it's gold or silver. Some people would say that a $10,000 silver coin is extremely overvalued. Well, that's if you're predicating it on the precious metal, the intrinsic value. And I'm not doing that. I look at the Morgan silver dollar market and I realize that people love big, beautiful coins. The question is, do you have the wherewithal, the ability to step in to the rarest of coins? Now, yesterday I talked about the 1893 San Francisco Morgan silver dollar. In 1985, had you bought that coin in choice uncirculated condition, the grading companies didn't start until 1986. So a Mint State 63 quality coin would have cost about $20,000 to $25,000. Today, you'll spend anywhere from $180,000 to $250,000 or more, depending on who graded it, whether the coin had any extra eye appeal to it, the star designation, whether you got any CAC stickers. There's so many variables. The toning factor goes into there. And coins that have toning can command premiums of 300% to 1,000%. And they're the ones that you want to be involved in because over the long haul, they're the ones that are sought after the most. Now, I can tell you that I had to prove a point to a good friend of mine in the industry. And he looked at a coin that was a Mint State 65 common date Morgan silver dollar. It's a coin that probably bids at about $140. You can buy them from $165 to $185. This coin had amazing toning, and it was in a rattler holder. That means it was first generation PCGS. The coin commanded $1,500. That's 10 times what it should have traded for as just a common date coin. So understand that there are people, investors, collectors, dealers that will pay premiums for coins because they're premium quality coins. That's the purpose for the CAC sticker. There's the green sticker and the gold sticker. And I've seen gold stickers trade for 3 to 10 times easy. They bring serious money. Premiums are out there. So if all you're looking for is the most common material at the bottom of the market, we can handle those transactions. And folks, if you want to email me or you've got questions, my email address, Brett, B-R-E-T-T, at thegoldexchange.net, TheGoldexchange.net. You can call the store if you're outside of the Houston market. That's 877-705-2646. Folks, I love to take questions. If you register at Ustream, you can pop into themeltdown.com and be on the chat room. You can ask me questions live. I'd be more than happy to get involved and answer your questions as the show goes on. But folks, this is the time to procure information, do some due diligence, understand the different types of the market. I'm never going to be the absolute cheapest. I will never be the most expensive. I will be fair. I will tell you about the transactions. If you send a wire transfer, the funds are wired off, the material's overnighted, transactions can be completed in 48 hours, typically. If you do your business on a Friday, that's obviously going to carry through the weekend. It may be Monday or Tuesday, but again, depending on the size of the transaction, determines how fast we can make delivery and settlement. One of the great things that has happened here in the state of Texas is all coin and currency transactions are now exempt from state tax. That's the first time it's ever happened. It went into effect October the 1st, and most people still aren't aware of it. And ultimately, it's another benefit for doing your business here at home. Now, if you're outside of the state and you want to do business, as of yet, certain states we can still ship to. Transactions get completed by Express, Federal Express, or UPS. Don't have an exemption on file. That way we can mark the package for delivery. Got to be clear about that stuff. It's important, but the transactions take place quickly. Every transaction is limited to $75,000 in a single overnight package. That's for our insurance purposes. So we never disclose the contents. Of course, our drivers know where we are and the name of our business, but we're easy to deal with. I'll answer questions until you're blue in the face. Heck, I'll answer them until I'm blue in the face. And it's important because it's an area that most people don't delve into. One of the first gentlemen I ever dealt with when I opened my retail storefront had got caught in an online auction company and spent over $30,000. Sent me a fax, an email of what he owned, and I priced it all up, and I emailed it back to him, and I explained I needed to view the collection. Well, the client was about 10 minutes away, so we made an appointment. He came in, and I got to see the physical material, and I was convinced of my bid. Nothing changed because he had gotten caught up in the euphoria of being in an auction site. His material was worth a fourth of what he paid for it. And ultimately, when you think you spent $35,000 or $32,000 in his case, and it's worth $8,000, that's a real problem. So He didn't have very much recourse. It was something he had to deal with. I told him to re-auction the material. Well, this guy went out and bought Chinese pandas in China, where, of course, the counterfeiting problem is huge. And that's exactly what he ended up buying, counterfeit gold. And so he took another $60,000 hit. And so all I'm really here to tell you is that there's a reason why people pay premiums for premium quality coins. And if you're not sure that what you're paying for is honest or fair or equitable, ask us. We're simple. We'll answer those questions for you. You can call the local store number. It's 281-548-2646. That's 281-548-2646. If you hit option 0, you'll get a live voice. That way you don't get caught in the phone system. It's a simple way to do business. I'm always willing to answer questions. If you're looking at a certain item on an online auction and you don't want me to bid against you, I'll tell you straight up I won't do it. I don't mind looking at the material. I mentioned Stephen yesterday brought in a very eclectic collection, some coins that I absolutely loved. And there are coins in the collection that I told him should be submitted for regrade. There were coins that should have gone to NCS. That's a conservation company. They legally use solution to be able to take off unattractive toning. Ultimately, it's about what you like. And this gentleman had taken the time and the due diligence to find really great eye appeal material. There are billions of coins out there. And so if you take a shotgun approach, then you end up owning something that's really attractive, but you may not be able to assure growth in value over time. My concern is to make sure that when we identify what your goals and objectives are, we stay focused on the goal or the objective. And it's important to understand what other people like, and you buy into that, or you buy what you like, or you mix it up. And I love silver dollars. I love Texas half dollars. I love coins from a lot of different areas of the industry. And so whether you like older coins or newer coins, I'm going to tell you, if you've got $100,000 or more, you want to mix it up. You want to own different dates and different qualities. You want to substantiate that what your goal is to collect. If it's not, and you really are an investor, that's fine. What I don't want to see you do is buy 20 ounces of gold and they're all the same date, because at that point you don't have a leg to stand on. You are truly hoarding gold. And for me, hoarding was addressed in the May 1st, 1933 gold confiscation. So as hoarding, it was addressed. President Reagan, when he decided to sign 99-185, that's the public law, authorizing the Treasury to make gold and silver coins again, literally, he deemed the coins to be numismatic. Folks, I can tell you that if you buy a 1-ounce gold American Eagle, you're going to pay about 5% to 6% over spot for it. If you turn around and sell it the next day and the price of the market doesn't move, you're going to lose a few percentage points. The reality is, if gold goes up $100, you're going to make $100, and if gold goes down 100, you lose 100. It is bullion, but the government called it numismatic, so people like me might tell people like you it's a collectible coin. It becomes a collectible coin when many of you own different dates in different qualities. It's just the norm. It's what you're supposed to do. The problem is too many dealers don't do the research, don't give you accurate information. They're going to either make it up or they don't know it, and they're going to sound like they know what they're talking about. Do the due diligence. Ask me questions. Send me the email. Let me do my job the best way I possibly can. If you've got an idea and you want to share it, that's great. I'll give you as unbiased opinion as I possibly can. But the reality is that after 30 years of doing this, I know pretty much where other dealers are going to recommend their investment to their client base. I know what's going to get recommended. And riding on another company's coattail, folks, I love spouse gold. I think it's some of the rarest coinage that's ever been produced. The spouses started and they hiccuped in the first couple of years. In other words, they made a lot and then they dropped off the mintage, then it picked back up as gold got interesting, and then the mintages were forced down. The U.S. Mint forced rarity into the marketplace. So you can own rare spouse gold or you can own common spouse gold. And the reality of all of this is simple, it's quick, and it's easy. Own multiple types of coins. If you like gold, let's own some gold. Let's buy new coins and old coins. Own commemorative coins. Own coins that you can buy cheap to the spread. Own a couple of rare coins, because it's the rare coin market that gets so much interest when the economy fires back up. We're talking about economic slowdown. We're talking about what may be a rougher fourth quarter than we've ever seen. And we're going to see a horrible third quarter because the government was shut down. The government is going to fund the furloughs for the 16 days that it was shut down. Folks, I'm going to tell you that no one knows what to believe. Nobody knows who to trust. And it doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on at this point, nobody trusts anybody. When I look back at LBJ and I talk about presidents of the 60s and the first part of the 70s, we made decisions predicated on what was best for the country. Compromise. Today, we don't compromise anything. And if you listen to Boehner, if you listen to Mitch McConnell, if you listen to Harry Reid or Nancy Pelosi, I'm not getting into a political debate here. I'm going to tell you the compromise between the aisles has never been narrower. The concerns never greater. And folks, the debate that goes on about Obamacare, 2 million people that are not going to have health care that had it, that are going to lose it. We're talking about Superstorm Sandy a year ago. We're talking about devastation across the country, and we're constantly producing paper to pay the bills. That's the reason to own gold and silver. It is a hedge, it is protection, it is always marketable. And those are the most important factors I could tell anybody to get involved with. It's just a question of picking your comfort level. What you like, what you don't like, and then determining out of your net worth what you're going to spend. Now, when I got out of college, it was still 5% of your net worth. I've heard 15 to 20%. And the 20% figure comes from guys like Jim Cramer. I certainly remember when Tyler Matheson said it back in the late 90s up in Conroe, Texas. Made the comment that it's a good time to diversify and not be totally invested in the stock market. And when stock market investors are talking specifically about being involved in material that is tangible, that's outside of the box, I absolutely take a perked up position in it. I own stock, I own my home, I own a car, I do a lot of different things. And ultimately, my concern for the future is for my son Jason. I love the idea of owning coins and precious metals and other types of collectibles. There are areas of the market that over the next 10 to 25 to 50 years will increase in value normally. No absolutes out there except death and taxes. Ultimately, this is the time to take a portion of the profits that you may have made in the stock market, the sale of a second home or a vacation property, move some money around, own some other assets, maintain your liquidity level, own things that you know you like, but things that other people like. And if you've got questions, reach out for me anytime. You can do it again. I'll announce the phone numbers. It's 281-548-2646. That's 281-548-2646. Hit option 0. That way you don't get caught in the phone system. If you're outside of the Houston market, 877-705-2646. Again, option 0. Email me anytime. That's Brett, B-R-E-T-T, at thegoldexchange.net. Brett, B-R-E-T-T, at thegoldexchange.net. And folks, I never want to get off a podcast or when I used to do a radio show without talking about Texas Children's Hospital, whether it's the Downs Clinic or the Ronald McDonald House. If you visit themeltdown.com, we archive our shows and we put them all up. We've got over 500 shows now. But if you click on the donation banner to the Downs Clinic, my son Jason is mild Downs. I would certainly appreciate you supporting Dr. Ostermeyer and her staff. Ultimately, The information you provide is totally anonymous. I don't get your name, number, or the amount of money that you pledge. Also, the Ronald McDonald House at Texas Children's Hospital, it's on the 4th floor. And ultimately, Nancy Allen and her staff would be more than happy to accommodate you if you can provide hot meals for the families that are staying at the facility. Please call 832-824-8600. That's 832-824-8600. Folks, I appreciate the people, the doctors, the nurses, the staff, and of course the volunteers. Now, we'll be back again tomorrow at about 2 o'clock. I'll be on the air for between 45 minutes to an hour. I appreciate you listening. If you've got questions, you know how to reach out to me. Have a great day. God bless you. Good.
You're still on.